As a contemporary society, we often recognize minds of those mentally ill as different from our own, and we wrongly categorize opinions that come from them as wrong because we think they emerge from a space that's been addled, that's been destroyed, that's been mutilated, that isn't like our own, so we dismiss it. In King Lear's time, his descent into madness is being documented by his daughters and by those around him. And his descent into madness is interesting because his daughters immediately, his daughters Regan and Goneril, decide to take advantage of that and exploit him, as does Edmund, for his own gain, for their own gain, to prop themselves up in life, to bring on the next generation as they rationalize it. The king falls victim to this and flees his throne. He flees his throne. He flees the castle. He runs out onto the moors in horrible weather, hurricane-like weather. And this is an example of Shakespeare employing pathetic fallacy, because as Shakespeare's mental state degrades, as his stature in life degrades, so does the weather. The weather becomes worse. The weather becomes dangerous as Lear's mental state moves from borderline dementia to madness, a mind that is lost, has been untethered from reality. But interestingly enough, Lear's descent into madness actually brings forth a series of revelations to him. It brings forth a series of revelations that allows him to understand things that he wasn't able to do before. For example, I'm going to read Act 3, Scene 4, lines 28 to 36. And this is a passage that reveals Lear truly understanding the ability of a king has to affect the lives of his subjects. Poor naked wretches, where you are, that bid the pelting of his pitiless storm, how shall your houseless heads and unfed sides, your looped and widowed ragginess, defend you from seasons such as these? Oh, I have ta'en too little care of this. Take psychic pomp, expose thyself to feel what wretches feel, that thou mayest shake the superflux to them, and show the heavens more just. This passage shows us King Lear living as a homeless person in his kingdom might. A homeless person who on a daily basis has to battle the elements just to survive. These are the most lonely and forgotten members of society. And King Lear recognizes that he didn't do enough as king to help and improve their lives. He recognizes that a king has a moral responsibility to improve the lives, to try and improve the lives of all his subjects, to prop them up, to make sure that they're able to live a better life than their parents did, to make sure that he raises them up so that they can raise others up around them. It is the duty as king to lead them forth. He also issues a challenge to royal members of the kingdom. He says that they need to live the lives and experience the lives of those who their decisions influence. When they do that, then they will truly be able to make just and moral decisions that benefit not just themselves, but the people that the decisions are made for. In this case, he sees homelessness as something he's never experienced. And he realizes that he has a duty, and all the leaders of the kingdom have a duty to go out and to witness what's within the kingdom so they can come back, they can make truly informed choices that reflect the will of the people. This is a massive revelation because King Lear is an old king. He's reaching the end of his reign, and he's ruled for all these years without realizing this. And it took his mind being pushed to the edge by psychological circumstances such as the imminent betrayal of his daughters and the physical circumstances such as the storm that's raging around him. All of these things have been battering at his mind, and from it espouses this revelation that the world is a place that he has the ability to change. His kingdom is a world that he has the ability to influence, that homeless people don't necessarily have to be forgotten by society, that he and those around him, the most powerful in the kingdom, have the ability to pull them up and to help them make a new life and help them live life to the fullest with food, with shelter, with things that he as a king is able to provide. That is not the only revelation that King Lear's descent into madness brings forth. At the outset of the play, we talked about how King Lear was exhibiting his madness because he was dividing up his kingdom based on a popularity contest. He was giving it away to whichever daughter could proclaim their love for him most passionately. And he was hoodwinked. He had the wool pulled over his eyes by Goneril and by Regan, who were always plotting to take the kingdom away from him. Um, the only daughter who refused to betray herself by claiming an inappropriate amount of love for Lear was Cordelia, who he banished, and she left, and who he banished, and she went off to live in France. Well, as Lear descends further into madness, he begins to reevaluate the decisions that he made in life, and we actually see that King Lear reconciles with Cordelia as he realizes the madness and the betrayal that's being perpetrated by his other daughters. Act 5, Scene 3, lines 20 to 23, reveals the reconciliation he has with Cordelia. Upon such sacrifices, my Cordelia, the gods themselves throw incense. Have I caught thee? He that parts us shall bring a brand from heaven and fire us hence like foxes. This is King Lear proclaiming his reaffirmed love for his youngest daughter. He's asking, have I hugged you yet? And if they want to separate us, they'll have to smoke us out like foxes out of a cave. King Lear has realized that he made a mistake before in dividing up his kingdom among his daughters based on who could proclaim their love for him most. And King Lear realizes that as the psychological and physical elements of life have battered at him, for example, he was betrayed by his closest daughters. He was betrayed by the Earl of Gloucester's bastard son Edmund, as he brought an army to try and take the kingdom. And King Lear was really facing a psychological onslaught from all sides, in addition to the onslaught of age and the onslaught of physical ailments such as dementia or the weather that was constantly pounding down on him, as Shakespeare employed pathetic fallacy. And it's interesting that these harsh conditions take an effect on Lear's mind, and they push him farther towards insanity. But as he pushes towards insanity, his mind has the ability to reimagine and to rethink thoughts that before had eluded him. He's able to recognize that his kingdom needs a strong king that he not necessarily was. He also is able to recognize that his daughters weren't truthful with him. His daughters were seeking to betray him, and that he made a mistake when he tossed Cordelia out of the kingdom. He's able to reconcile with Cordelia. And as the play progresses, we actually see as Cordelia is hanged later on the orders of Edmund, it kills Lear. Lear isn't able to handle it after such a newfound espousal of love and reconciliation with his youngest daughter. The fact that he loses her so suddenly after destroys him, and he isn't able to go on living. The madness that exists in Lear's mind brought forth a new form of clarity, because he was able to reconsider things that he before had eluded him, that were just outside his grasp. Madness took off the blinders of societal pressures. It took off the blinders of his own pressures that he had placed on himself. It took off the blinders of what he thought a role of a king should be, and he was only living to fit that shape, that he believed a king should be this, so I'm only going to live up to that bar that I've set. But the madness reveals the clarity that allows Lear to push his own boundaries, to realize that he can be a better king, he could be a better father, and he can be a better ruler.